Being diagnosed with a melanoma is an all too common reality for baby boomers who spent their childhoods basking in the harsh Australian sun. For high-flying Perth businessman Ross Taylor, it was a devastating and potentially deadly blow, but also a wake-up call that's seen him rebalance his life. 17 years after we first met Ross Taylor on the 7:30 report, he's now cancer-free and using his remarkable story of recovery to inspire others tackling the disease. Danielle Parry reports from Perth.
Ross Taylor enjoys nothing more than an early morning swim at Perth's Cottesloe Beach. Smothered in sun cream and wearing a rash vest, he's not taking any chances in the West Australian sun that gave him a melanoma 17 years ago and almost cost him his life.
One of the gifts of cancer is to make you really appreciate just how precious life is. It has an incredible way of making you not sweat the small stuff.
The 7:30 report first met Ross Taylor in 1994 when he was in his early 40s and had just been diagnosed with cancer.
I was on business in Jakarta having a shower, and under the shower I noticed a lump under what is my lymph gland under my arm, about the size of a very large marble.
The international businessman and former surf lifesaver had just returned from Asia to begin a punishing regime of chemo and radiotherapy to rid his body of melanoma and the secondary cancers that came with it.
Well, the prognosis wasn't really good. My oncologist had told me that with the chemotherapy and the radiotherapy and surgery, my prognosis was probably a 50-50 chance for the first year.
Having come from a nursing background, I was well aware that secondary melanoma was not such a good thing to have. And I really did believe that maybe, that this disease would probably take him.
Ross Taylor admits that at first he was in denial about the seriousness of his illness.
I was sitting up in my bed connected to the chemotherapy drugs, and I was still trading in rock phosphate fertilisers to Asia, and my wife Catherine was running around living the cancer journey. And I think the catalyst for this change really came about when one day she walked into the hospital room and said to me, "I'm going to hand over the responsibility for this cancer journey to you." Not just with my cancer, it's going to be good.
Live the best life, really.
I live my best life.
Part of taking responsibility meant reluctantly joining a cancer support group. It was a confronting experience for a high-flying businessman, but he believes it was pivotal to his recovery.
I think the first lady I met there was a lady named Kathy Brown, and she explained she had exactly the same type of cancer as I had, and the prognosis was about the same, and yet she was over 4.5 years out. And I can remember thinking to myself, wow, if that lady can do this, so can I.
One a month,
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He didn't want to join in with a group with people who were all suffering with cancer, but he then started to open up and really embrace the whole program.
Ross Taylor did his research. He started a regular meditation and exercise regime and cleaned up his diet with a focus on fresh juice. Then he left the rest to his doctors.
That's their job to try and cure me. What I would do with the help of my wife and the people who cared for me was to embark on a program to, in a holistic sense, try and bring my life, in a general health sense, into complete harmony.
The path to recovery was no picnic for Ross Taylor's family. They're rock solid today, but the ordeal took a toll on his teenage daughter, who ran away from home.
So you went a bit off the rails?
Went a bit off the rails. When I was 13, I ran away to Albany. And then when I was 15, I went to Melbourne for a year. And, that wasn't the easiest time for me.
Ross Taylor is now cancer-free and trying to share the lessons he's learnt with other cancer sufferers, like Clinton Heal, who was diagnosed with melanoma at just 22. The Young West Australian of the Year says Ross Taylor encouraged him to give something back to the community.
It was kind of, his inspiration and his mentorship that sort of made me think, well, maybe I could do something for others in the same situation. So I had the thought of making a website with information to start with, and he sort of sat down and said, that's a great idea, but you're the one who's going to drive this, and I'll help you along the way.
Ross has always wanted to give back. I mean, he really is a true philanthropist in the true sense. He quietly behind the scenes will help anybody and reach out and give support.
In a cruel twist, the Taylors are now grappling with another cancer diagnosis. Their daughter's partner has a terminal brain tumour. He's now living in the family's Perth home, where they're using everything they've learnt to help him.
There's got to be a reason for all this, and I'm sure just meeting Nick, him coming to our family was almost fate in itself, because what better family for him to come to than a family who knows so much about cancer.
Despite his ordeal, Ross Taylor's outlook remains bright. He's written several books about living with cancer and donated the hundreds of thousands of dollars in proceeds to charity. He's cautiously optimistic about his prognosis and grateful for his new perspective on life.
I avoid using words like, yes, I've beaten cancer after 17 years, because I've got 75,000 billion cells in my body. I don't really know whether some of them are cancerous or not, but all I know is at the moment, myself, and I'm very blessed with my family, we live a very vibrant life, and I think that's been an amazing journey.
Danielle Parry with that report from Perth.